Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome to Midnight Mandela. How is everybody doing tonight? Has it been an interesting week as usual? So there's a lot of questions about the thumbnail. We have sort of covered this one before, but there have been some upgrades. So that is actually a frozen blue glacier, basically. And we've covered that there's striped glaciers and reddish glaciers and pink glaciers. And the story for the pink ones was some kind of algae thing, if I recall correctly. But it seems like it's upgraded a tad. Now, I could have used a different thumbnail. This one has been making the rounds of Reddit, and this is not the exact one, but that the storyline has kind of upgraded on these. So before, they would just say, okay, the ice in the iceberg got really packed and then it turned blue. And interestingly, that's still kind of what it says in the wiki. A blue iceberg is visible after the ice from above the water melts, causing the smooth portion of ice below the water to overturn. The rare blue ice is formed from the compression of pure snow, which then develops into glacial ice. Okay, so this is kind of like half of the new story, but not the whole thing. So the current story is that glaciers are actually blue because the compression squishes out all the air. Now, I'm kind of confused about where the air goes to, because if you compress and compress, I mean, like, does the air get like squished out the sides? Does it like get squished up to the top? Just because you squish, I mean, like, I'm a little confused on that. And that was never a thing before for me. The glaciers were whitish, and that was it. And then these weird blue things and striped and more clear ones started showing up. And it was a number of years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. But so that was the whole story. So the new story, though, is they used to kind of say it was kind of rare special ice, but now it's the whole glacier. The whole glacier is blue once you get the top off. And then they're basically saying the top is like regular snow before it's been squished. So now this story here is that like the top kind of melts, and then that might cause the glacier to like floating ones to flip over and then expose the blue underside. And that's kind of the old story, except for the flipping part. And the new story also is the entire glacier is blue, except for the top. And that is also an upgrade. But it definitely gets more interesting. These are just the boring bits I'm starting with. Then the new other story I'm seeing, though, is that they're basically saying that also there's this thing called marine ice, and this kind of adds color options, because they're saying, okay, the pieces float out and then somehow they can refreeze more ice on the bottom, like somehow they suck up the water part and the salt part doesn't go with, and then it freezes on the bottom. And then they're like, okay, now it can be all these colors because of impurities in the water. And I'm like, well, how many weird colors do you have and the water? I don't know. It's just but so they've come up with some new colors. First, I'll go this one. Okay, I think I got all of this one. Okay, here, this is why I still have this. This is also something I've never heard of. Supposedly, since 1912, reports made by witnesses of the RMS Titanic tragedy have stated that the ship hit a blue iceberg. I've never heard of that at all. That it be blue, obviously, yes, on the iceberg, but no, on the blue. Following the sinking and subsequent discovery of the Titanic, scientific research and forensic analysis have reconstructed the tragedy to ascertain the reliability of the statements made by the survivors. Reports released in the last decade of the 20th century have shown that a blue iceberg in the North Atlantic would have been easily detected. I don't really even understand these sentences here. Yes, it was detected when people saw it, and then the Titanic smashed into it. Um, it'd be like, I don't know, like everybody on there said it was a blue iceberg, but we reconstructed it and said no because you could detect it. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. Alternative theory suggests that pack ice rather than a blue iceberg was responsible for the sinking of the ship. I don't know. So this last sentence is like a Mandela Effect, fuzzy, wuzzy logic style is my feeling on this. All right. So now we get to another iceberg one that I found. This one talks more about the marine ice. Frozen seawater can accumulate as marine ice under ice shelves that extend from a glacier over the ocean. When this happens, particles suspended in the water get incorporated into the ice. The particles can change ice's interaction with light and thus its color. Dead, crushed cells from sea life or iron-rich rock dust both turn marine ice shades of green and yellow. Okay. So there's a whole, I mean, how much crushed cells is like floating under the water down there? I've definitely seen diving and stuff. It looks really, really clear. I've never seen anything that looks like it would have enough color to turn the color of an iceberg. Large amounts of dead organic matter reflect yellow light, Warren says, but just a small amount will make an iceberg shimmer like jade. Okay. Translucent sparkling bluebergs form from particle-free water. Marine ice contains much less air than glacial ice, giving it gemstone clarity. So one of my issues, though, is like, okay, so this is just refreezing from the bottom. I mean, how much refreezing is going on here? That these are big old chunks here. So, wouldn't there be kind of a limit to size if it was? I think this is the kind of stuff they're talking about here. Gem quality, very beautiful. I feel like basically the Mandela wants to cough up these pretty icebergs, and it's scraping up an excuse that really sucks. I mean, like, shouldn't there then be like kind of a line on a bunch of these where it's really gem clear and then it starts to get foggy because right there is where the glacial ice was? Yet I don't really see this on any of these. I think you'd see it a lot if it's all bottom ice. Here's another one. 6 hours later. So yeah, I don't know. And it wasn't this story about the marine ice. I don't remember there being that there. That one's really nice also. You can see it right there. But it gets more interesting than that. So I actually was having trouble because a couple nights ago looking this up, I found a whole ton about this marine ice. And then suddenly today it wasn't in the wiki and it wasn't in the first three I pulled up. And I'm like, where did the marine ice go? I almost thought that the Mandela had yanked it already. But no, I found it here in Scientific American with the marine ice. And it didn't help that I couldn't remember the word marine ice. But the thing is, the other day I just typed in blue iceberg and all the articles were talking about this marine ice. But now all of a sudden, no, we're almost back to the glacial squishing thing. Okay, cracks also factor in creating striped icebergs. I think if you remember back, there was... Let me just do this one. Striped icebergs. So they're saying we've seen these icebergs before with the stripes. Ooh, what the heck is that? The hoax of Lake Michigan striped icebergs? All right, I got to click on this. It is a hoax, but I'm wondering if Lake Michigan's going to get icebergs or something. Not yet, obviously, but Not long ago, I received an email showing me these gorgeous pictures of fantastic icebergs in Lake Michigan. I've lived most of my life in Michigan and have seen the waters. I have seen the waters of Lake Michigan frozen. However, I've never seen any kind of floating icebergs. This true story about the mysterious icebergs is recorded in Ovind Tangen while on research trip 660 miles north of the Arctic. Okay. This is interesting with this really weird Dr. Seuss style ones, because I haven't seen that before. Okay, there's the striped ones. Now, I'm thinking this has to be, see how clear it is? But then there's the snowy ones and the clear. I mean, like, how exactly do cracks do that? Okay, I don't think that that could be compressed style one, because then the ones nearby should have some compression. So it would have to be a big crack, and then like the marine ice freezing thing. But then how does it just float with this giant crack long enough for that water to get in there and then refreeze? So that also confuses me. All right, let's go back to the awesome possum ones here. So something like this then, open image. How is this the result of cracks? I mean, how would it just hold together when there's like half of it missing, like sheets of paper would just, I mean, wouldn't they all just squash back together, melt, fall? That doesn't look stable at all. And somehow they would all these cracks would have to remain enough to refill with something else. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so the story is cracks are a factor. Fissures in the base of an ice shelf can become flooded with seawater that then refreezes. Okay, so where does all the salt go? Is that somehow freezing in there now? Because then I'm confused on that, because before that's why it wouldn't freeze, because there was salt. If a series of cracks opens simultaneously, the iceberg is streaked with bands of a single color. So like this one, but so all of these cracks opened simultaneously and then somehow filled up with water. I mean, that doesn't really make any sense. If cracks open over time and get flooded by different kinds of seawater, the iceberg stripes can be multicolored. Blue stripes can also form on the top of glaciers when its own meltwater freezes in crevices. Okay, maybe that's the story a little bit with this, but yet, wait, so we're having what, melting on the top of Antarctic ice shelves right there with all the snow? I don't know. I thought that the melting happened at the bottom because of the scraping and the volcanoes. So how did it melt way up here? And then I don't see. I mean, like, I guess it's possible, but it would be incredibly rare, it seems to me, that much of this would happen. It just, I don't know. The whole thing does not jive. And then, like, a lot of these striped ones are super stripy. All right, so there's multicolor ones, I guess. Does that look like a crack formation to you? It's all wavy. That's another issue. None of these really look crack shaped. Okay, maybe this is the kind of thing they're saying makes them. But again, the shape is not the same. I've never even seen an iceberg like that, frankly. When these just calve off and flop to the side. See, this whole thing, my brain is like, does not compute. Again, these are not crack shaped at all. Like, none of them are. This one is a little crack shaped here. That one I could almost buy. Interesting. Okay, that one maybe here, a little crack shape. But it gets more weird because we have a new color coming up, if I can get down to it. Blue stripes can also form in the top. Okay, got that. Yellow, green, and multicolored icebergs require the existence of glacial ice shelves and very cold conditions, cold enough to freeze seawater, so they arise only in Antarctica. Bergs in the Arctic are white or blue if their snow jackets have melted. So that's the new story now, that it's mostly blue. So it's not really all that rare because now the whole thing is blue. A warming ocean could reduce the number of tinted bergs. Again, the story, they're becoming extinct. Yet what we see is, of course, the very opposite of that, that there's more and more of them. But they want you to be afraid they're becoming extinct. Good old global warming is going to wipe out your stripy icebergs. Beware. But scenarios exist where marine ice could continue to form at higher ocean temperatures. If the ice shelf remains intact, water could still potentially freeze to its underside because of the huge downward pressure of the shelf can alter the freezing temperature of water immediately under it. I've never heard of that one. That's interesting. If the surface was later exposed to a warmer ocean as it rolled over so it could be seen, it might melt quickly. Okay, that's not the one with the, somewhere in here they'd said something about black icebergs. That's what I'm trying to get to. Did I, like, skip over it? Here. Maybe it was the icebergs can be green, black, striped, even rainbow. All right, that was what got me. I'm like, whoa, black? We got black ones? I'm pretty sure we looked for black ones before and didn't find them, but I looked this time and there she blows. We have black icebergs. Open this one. All right, so it looks like a giant charcoal thing right next to these other ones that aren't really black, of course, to be as absolutely striking as possible. That's the one we just looked at. Ooh, look at that one. What is that? Oh, nope, that's fake. Okay. Deviant art. This is an interesting one. Now, I did complain about there not being a demarcation point on those blue ones, but this one does have it. Ooh, that is a nice photo. Yeah. I actually found this like minutes before the show too, because I was trying to find that other one. I'm like, black icebergs? Black icebergs? So I was kind of looking for other colors. I just wrote in colored. I think we pretty much got almost all the colors last time. The only one that looked a little bit new is somewhere in here I saw a little bit of a purpley one. That was this one. I don't remember a purpley one. I'm not 100% on this. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be a purpley one, but there wasn't a lot. I think the info just said like colored or something. But we had the pink ones, so the purple ones don't seem that strange. I actually should put in purple iceberg and see. Is there any colors we haven't got? We've got red. We got pink. That was last time, if you recall. Purple is not really. There's the pink ones that was algae. So the purple ones are not here, but I'm pretty sure we didn't have black ones last time either. Let me just see if we have red. Red. Yeah. There's the red ones, and I'm pretty sure we had those last time too. I think that was algae also, if I recall correctly. MSNBC did not pass their... I don't know why I'm just seeing all these ones where there's the privacy certification, blah, blah, blah lately. Even Google was coming up with a privacy warning earlier today. Nope. Yep. Oh, there's not actually a lot of them, but interesting. Let's try this one. Oh, painted by artist. That might be the same one as that one. Huh, I thought we did have red ones last time, though. That's interesting. Because we have pink ones. Let me make sure pink ones are still legit. So for me, the last I checked, that algae thing could be red, green, or pink. And that's how we got the red ones, was because of the algae. Now is a result of algae which is growing. Okay. Doink. This pink iceberg, which is pretty much red at this point. Interesting that there was one that looked really similar, said it was painted. So that's going to confuse a couple people. This one also, this pink one also says algae. That one's really nice. So yeah, the iceberg's getting awesome possum. White, blue, black, and jade. All right, let's see. What causes black icebergs? I'm curious what the storyline. I think, was it dead stuff or something? Okay, that's one other story, is that it's like bubbles, snow particles and bubbles of air trapped. Okay, that's the white part, but now it's only on the top. Mysterious green. You can see 10 meters down into the ice. I don't think they were this clear last time. So check this one out. You can actually, it looks like you can see right through to the other side, is kind of the impression I'm getting on this one. If you can see 10 meters in, I mean, 10 meters? That's like 30 feet, so that's pretty impressive. Striped. Doesn't say why the black ones. I think it was organic stuff, though. I'm going to have to go back. I missed the one that we were on. Black. The ice can shine like a sapphire or be murky as a frozen mud puddle. Oh, here we go. Shiny black icebergs are made from defect-free marine ice. I thought that the blue ones were made from clear, untarnished marine ice. So now the black ones are made from defect-free marine ice. There's nothing to scatter the light, Warren says. Add in light scattering cracks and the ice will regain its blue hue. This is crazy. Okay. I was assuming it would be garbage or soot or something, but no, it's ice turns black when it's completely pure and clean. That's the story now. That is the story. No, I couldn't have thought of that. That is not what I could have thought of. Oh my God, is it Scientific American? Have they lost their minds? I'm going to try it again. Black iceberg defect free ice. I'm going to try and see if that story holds up. I think these black ones are pretty new though. Rare, perfectly clear black blue iceberg. Black blue. So like it's super, super, super dark blue, which makes it black. Except for it's kind of gray. And it's not blue at all. I just feel so like trolled right now. Gaslit. I picture of the day, the black iceberg. All right, let's try one more time. Blue is really dark except for it's light, but it actually just looks gray. Yes. And it is black because it is so pure and clean that it has nothing in it. Most icebergs are white except along freshly calved ice cliffs, which tend to appear blue. Others may appear green, brown, or black, or combinations. These icebergs have usually rolled over, exposing basal ice. Basal ice, that's another word I have not heard. Or have emerged from below water level. For example, black ice is of high density and bubble free. I thought that was blue ice. Dark layers indicates the presence of rock materials derived from the base of the parent glacier. Occasionally, rocks may be found on the original upper surface of the iceberg. As the iceberg melts, these materials precipitate into marine or lake sediments. Okay, so they're claiming it's dirt. Others are saying it's really just black blue. Ah, here's 2 ways black icebergs form. I don't feel like this one has settled down yet. Like, the Mandela is still working out the story here. All right, there's the white ones. Yellow is dead plankton in seawater. Can freeze onto icebergs. Mineral particulates from iron oxides. The water is fresh, but it contains particulates. Green, if you mixed blue of the iceberg with yellow from organic matter. All right, so there are 2 ways black icebergs can form. First, if the ice is very pure and free of air bubbles. Okay, that's the one I think is most ridiculous. It can absorb enough light to appear black. Small p. I just can't get that one. Really, really pure water does not appear black. So why would really, really, really pure ice appear black? Small pieces of this ice appear perfectly clear, except for it's like black. It's perfectly clear, but it's black. This doesn't make any sense. Other black icebergs form when volcanic ash is deposited upon a glacier. Okay, so now we have dirt from the bottom. The other one said. This one said it's... None of this even looks right. I guess maybe this one. This one actually does kind of look like dirt. But most of those, no. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. All right, I'm giving it up. Mandela, figure it out. Let me know once you've decided how they form, because you got to come up with a better story than this on these 5 different stupid sounding stories that conflict. And so there's 3 possible ways now: volcanic ash, dirt from the bottom, or complete lack. Wait, so complete lack of impurities makes it black, but black impurities also makes it black. Like, no. I'm sorry, but no. No. Oh, Shari had a weird Mandela. Man, there's not much talking. Did I miss something? You guys are just not chit-chatting. I feel like I've been talking. Yeah, see, I've been talking for like a half hour. Shari was, looked out the window, saw them planting plants, and in the morning they weren't there. And then later they planted them. That's a trip. That does remind me of that time that I saw them like cleaning and trimming all the bushes and everything at a place near my work. I drove by. I'm like, oh, they're cleaning it up. Looks great. They were almost done. I went and did something for a short while. Drove back to work. Looked at the area. It wasn't cleaned up anymore. It was uncleaned. No evidence at all of any cleaning. That, when you trim, there's like little bits of trim, chomped leaves and twigs. And there wasn't even that. I'm like, how did they get all of that up? Did they take a vacuum cleaner? I'm like, why did the bushes don't look trimmed anymore? I was like, this is before I knew about the Mandela. But they never did go and retrim it. Like a timeline didn't switch around in the trimming. So it's been a weird week, though, this week for me. I have not found a lot of global Mandelas, but I have seen some stuff. I'll talk about it later. I talked about the river a little bit, like the way the river moves down at the bottom of my hill has changed. I don't think I mentioned other new thing I just saw. Is anybody following the Picard series? No, I don't know what that is. Oh, Picard. Okay. Picard. No, I'm not. This is an old Emmy, but anybody remember a different rainbow? I know a lot of people said they remember the rainbow colors reversed. And I think maybe, but I wasn't really sure on that one. I feel like we might have had a big shift, though, right before the time change. I was like super tired. A lot of people I know were really tired. Now I feel recovered, but so it changed in the movie, on the show. Picard, you remember, number 1 had 2 children and 1 died. Now season 3, he only has 1 infant. Huh. New Picard series. Yeah, I haven't been watching it, sorry. There have been a lot of changes in those Star Treks, though. The way some of the creatures look, the monocle, the eye thing on 7 of 9 keeps changing and changing and changing. That Chakotay, people remember Chakotay dying. And of all episodes, the episode where they do the weird time, they fight with that time chip that alters time. Of all episodes for him to die, is the episode when they're talking about timelines and time shifts. So that just it's even more like trolling. Sometimes you're like, okay, maybe it was just different in another timeline, but when it has to be like that episode, it doesn't seem like it's just a random other option when it has to be the time shift episode. Okay. Yeah, guys, you guys are not talkative today. Usually there was a ton of them. All right, so Molefield Cave. This one is interesting. If you guys remember back, I'm fairly old. I don't think I don't know how many really young people are, but on my show, but that watch the show, I should say. But I remember that sometime in my life, and I don't think I was that old, but I wasn't like a young toddler or anything. They used to say that they thought life had to be based, like carbon based. Photosynthesis is like the source of the energy, and then stuff eats the plants, and then so it was all based on light, oxygen, water, photosynthesis. And then they found the black smokers, which is like these weird, really hot vents at the bottom of the ocean in the deep place, a real deep place. And then they realized that there was another kind of a life system there that was not based on the normal light from the sun, and it was from this heat, like these thermal vents. Okay. And that was like this big old hairy deal because, oh, we were wrong. You can have like these thermal vent life, okay? And then kind of sneaky like over time, there were more of these, and there were, maybe they weren't all black smokers. And then I don't know how we ended up with so many of them, but apparently now since 1986, which I say no, not since 1986, there's also caves like above the, we're not talking the bottom of the ocean. So it kind of made sense that they didn't know about something that was in the bottom of the ocean, and we only recently could get down there easily. But these are caves now, and they're not on the bottom of the ocean. They're above the ocean, and you can walk in them and stuff. And there's more than one of them, but one of them is called Movile Cave. It's in Romania, Movile cave, that also have these weird alternate life systems, underground, under unique groundwater ecosystem. And it's there is some oxygen there, but it is not based on oxygen. And they have a new word for it, because I've not heard this word before with the black smokers and the thermal vents and stuff. And it's called chemosynthesis. So they're basically saying that this cave operates on a chemosynthesis system of hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide as being the abundant sources, and that there's like a chemical setup there that all the life is based on. There'll be like a kind of a plant-like thing that does the chemosynthesis, and then you got the shrimps and crabs that eat the plant. But what we're seeing is that as each one of these new system sets like shows up, it's a little more complicated, because when the black smokers first showed up, there were just like three creatures. There was the plants, and then they had these like shrimps, and they had some crabs, and that was like it. And I actually haven't looked at the black smokers, but I'm gonna bet there's more creatures than just those three: the plants, the shrimps, and the crabs. But here again, there are more than just the three. Now there's 57 animal species on this chemosensitive area here. The water in the lake only contains dissolved oxygen in the first centimeter at most, and in some places only the first millimeter. Deeper down, the water becomes completely anoxic. The cave has 57 species, including leeches, spiders, pseudoscorpions, woodlice, centipede, water scorpion, snail. Of these, 37 are endemic. The food chain is based on chemosynthesis by methane and sulfur oxidizing bacteria, which in turn release nutrients for fungi and other bacteria. These form microbial mats on the cave walls and the surface of lakes and ponds, which are grazed on by some of the other animals. The grazers are then preyed on by the predatory species. Nepa anophthalma is the only known cave-adapted water scorpion in the world. While animals have lived in the cave for 5.5 million years, not all of them arrived simultaneously. One of the most recent animals recorded is the cave's only species of snail, Helioba dobrogica, which has inhabited the cave for a slightly more than 2 million years. So this is kind of confusing. What do they mean by arrive? So, like, it would have had to be a creature that lived in the normal air, and then it shows up and suddenly it doesn't need air, and it could live with methane and hydrogen sulfide and everything. I mean, you can't just show up as a snail and go, yeah, this is fine, I'll just live here. So I'm kind of confused with this arrived business. It doesn't really make sense. Now, if they're trying to say, like with the black smokers, they said that they independently developed there, that would kind of make sense. But I don't get this arrived business. So it feels like we're getting kind of a change in how they're claiming that species develop. I think we talked about singing stones before, but now every stone apparently can sing. Well, I don't know if it's every stone, but I have definitely noticed that every stone and its uncle, it seems like, can sing. Because, like, they started saying, oh, the ones that, like, all these ancient monuments can have singing stones, and they're here, and they're there, and they're everywhere. So, yeah. Yeah, they were, when they first showed up, there was, like, one place in the world, and now it's, like, everywhere. And YouTube drives you crazy. My husband noticed new episodes he'd never seen from the original series. Talk about Star Trek. I know I've said on here lots of times that I had 2 seasons for the original Star Trek. And some years ago, suddenly I started seeing ones I'd never seen before. I looked it up. There's now 3 seasons. And indeed, about 1 out of 3 of the episodes are ones I have never seen before. I actually got to sit down and go through them. They had like a 24 hours of original Star Trek ones, and I saw several of them. But the problem is I don't remember the names, but once they start playing, then I saw that one, didn't see that one, saw that one. So yeah, I saw like 2 or 3 I hadn't seen yet. Now there's a tiny dinosaur teeth-eyed bird. Teeth-eyed bird. Okay. I want to say that's a typo, but knowing the timeline, are we talking about now in Star Trek or in the past? Oh, and I should say, there was a couple others of these somewhere. Similar caves with all these weird things are Ainur Cave, Ayalon Cave, Frazizi Caves. So there's some in Israel, some in Italy. Karst Cave System. The most famous show caves in Italy, if you've ever heard of them, I haven't. New species of crustacean in Ayalon Cave. Complex food web which survived for millions of years without light or organic food coming from the surface, blah, blah, blah. We've got Melissa Trippa Cave, Greece. Tashan Cave, Iran. Caves in the Sharu Argun Valley in the Caucasus Mountains. Lower Cane Cave and Cesspool Cave in the USA. Seriously? I'm going to have to look into that. And Villa Luz Cave in Mexico. So these chemosynthesis caves are all over the freaking universe now. All right. This one's actually kind of fun because it could be solve some problems. Somebody I know online found this one. It was from PJ or Palin. PJ she goes by either name. You get credit for this one in case you ever listen to this, which you probably don't. This one makes me laugh because it kind of reminds me of Tartaria in a very abstract way. So, looking for a new energy source out of thin air. You can make energy out of thin air now. Specifically out of hydrogen. Apparently, there is an enzyme that can turn hydrogen, here they call it air, but hydrogen, into energy, unlocking potential new energy source. Woohoo! This is recent, March 8th. I don't know if this is the thing. It almost looks like Cheetos for Americans. It looks a little bit like Cheetos, which are like cheese puffs, basically. the famous junk food of the universe in America that I was so addicted to in childhood. I could probably be addicted to them again if I allowed myself, but pure neon orange junk food tastiness. A scanning electron microscope image of a bacterium that can use atmospheric hydrogen to generate an electrical current. Okay, so much for relying on photosynthesis. We've got chemosynthesis, and now we've got, what do you even call it? There's no word, I guess. And then here's a hilarious one because it's a cousin of the bacteria responsible for tuberculosis and leprosy. So it's related to tuberculosis and leprosy. This bacteria can turn air into energy, converts hydrogen into electricity. Electricity specifically. It's not like ATP or one of the chemicals that our body uses for energy, ATP. It's actually just electricity, okay? Because even if it somehow was sort of like photosynthesis, but it used hydrogen, that would still be amazing. But no, this is straight into electricity. It isn't into a molecule that can be used for energy by the body. Apparently, it's just electricity. And they think it could be used to create a new, clean source of energy, literally from thin air. The enzyme, which has been named HUC, HUC, is used by the bacterium I really feel like we're being trolled here. It's by the bacterium Mycobacterium smegmatis. Okay, smegmatis. I feel like this is a joke, smegmatis. So we will get electricity from smegma to draw energy from atmospheric hydrogen, enabling it to survive in extreme nutrient-poor environments. Now, by extracting and studying the enzyme, the researchers say they have found a new energy source that could be used to power a range of small, portable electric devices. They published their findings on March 8th in the journal Nature. Okay, so they're saying basically that it can create this bacteria, what did they call it? Bacteria. Uses hydrogen, and since there's not like a ton of hydrogen in the environment, it doesn't produce a ton of electricity. But if we get our devices to need less and less electricity, then it could do small devices. But the other thing is, what about just charging like a battery over time? So maybe it's kind of slow, but if you had big panels of this, the hydrogen, the air could then so it'd be like solar panels, but it'd be like hydrogen bacteria panels. And then one of the problems with solar panels is they don't work that well in like really overcast places. They don't work at night. But hydrogen is there all day and all night. So you could have these working at night as well. That's one of the big problems we currently have with solar panels is as soon as the sun sets, there's no power. So over here in California, where we have a lot of solar, right around 4 p.m., there's like a power crisis because people are getting home from work, they're cooking, they're doing their laundry. In the summer, it's still effing hot, so the air conditioner's on. And there's no solar power, which is a big chunk of our grid right now. So if we had these things running, that would be 24/7. As long as the air is present, it does kind of bring up the question of whether we would like use up hydrogen or not over like years. Maybe the new environmental crisis, you're stealing all the hydrogen. Amsmegmatis is a non-pathogenic, so supposedly you're not going to get tuberculosis or anything. At least that's the current storyline. Fast-growing bacterium, often used in the lab to study the cell wall structure of its close disease-causing relative Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Now, interestingly, this Mycobacterium smegmatis, there have been a few incidences of infections caused by it. So it like would get into like an open wound or something and cause an infection. So when they say it's non-pathogenic, that's not like 110% true, at least with the research I did recently, a few days ago. To investigate the chemistry behind M. smegmatis's shocking ability, the scientists first isolated the Huck enzyme responsible for the process using chromatography, a lab technique which enables scientists to separate the components of blah, 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 yeah. Let's see, what else we got here? I don't even know how they knew to look. I mean, who said, hey, where's this electricity coming from? Huck can extract energy from hydrogen in the air, which is effectively limitless. So at least they say that now. The amount of electricity can be generated from the low concentrations of hydrogen in the air will be modest. A complementary use of Huck would be in fuel cells where higher concentrations of hydrogen is provided. So you could say carry hydrogen around and then feed these bacteria or this enzyme system slowly, so it would be an interesting way to store power, because you just store the bacteria or the enzyme if it was shelf stable, and then just feed the hydrogen on the enzyme, and then you maybe would have like constant power that way, reasonably shelf stable. If the enzyme was shelf stable, then there would be no real huge limits on storage either, because hydrogen stores forever. So, yeah, this could be solving some problems if it develops more in the timeline. So that's one of the reasons I was really excited about it. It's just weird to me because the timeline I grew up in, it was basically dogma that photosynthesis was the name of the game and there was no other way to get energy from anything. And here we've got, oh, it just gets it out of the thin air. Sure, people, sure. Hydrogen was the most abundant element in the atmosphere in my past on Sag. Here it's nitrogen. I think I am pretty sure it was oxygen for me. Don't ask me how we didn't all burn up, but there was a lot of it. Oxygen and carbon dioxide. Hardly any nitrogen. That was tiny. Renee Cruz got all her taxes done. Now I am not going to listen. I'm not listening to you because obviously I haven't done mine yet. I was telling Marley on her live stream chat that I have to my cross to bear, and then donkeys got crosses on their backs. Maybe it's what they did way back, and it's not a new discovery. Okay, so the thing is, though, I just haven't, like, if you look at the old Tesla stuff, and you look at what we think was the Tartaria stuff, there hasn't really been any evidence of enzymes or chemo anything. It looked like it was more like electromagnetic, like it's all electromagnetic. So unless there's more shifts to kind of bring those two storylines together, I'm not seeing it right now. Who knows what'll come down the chute. There could be more than one. You know, so we see all this like global takeovers, the 15-minute cities. There's a new thing, I think it was called like C40 or something, DC40. God, I can't remember the name, but basically there's another thing that sounds a lot like the 15-minute cities that I just heard of yesterday. And it was that they want to cut carbon emissions by 50%. That's what some places say. And other places are saying to be zero emissions, like carbon neutral cities. So it's a lot like the 15-minute cities, but even like more, because they're basically saying the only way we could do that is to eliminate cars. There'll be no cars at all. I guess there'd be no cars that had any emissions anyways. And so that's the story, is you walk everywhere and there's no cars, period, in the whole city. And they're not building new cities for this. They're looking at old cities. So cities have signed up for this. They want it to be done with the zero emissions by 2030. Cities that have signed up for it: Houston, Texas, Los Angeles, big surprise. I'm pretty sure San Francisco was on the list. There was like 100 cities, some in Europe also. So, 7 years from now, no gas vehicles. Everything's electric. They can turn it off whenever they want to. Yeah. So, again, there could be a really nice setup like that if you had really nice electrical and the government wasn't like the evil overlords. So on the flip side, maybe that's fine for in the cities as long as the country doesn't have to have it, or you can live nearby and not choose that type of lifestyle. Then if you want it, have it, but don't make me have it. But some things that could disrupt this would be having your own power source, like say these enzyme things, like say they think they have control over all of us because they've eliminated gas power, and this enzyme thing takes off, and it's a huge disruptor type of thing that comes out of the blue that suddenly breaks the chokehold. So if reality is going to spin that there'll be the evil overlord government, then we need reality to spin some solutions. So maybe this is one of them. San Francisco, what was it called? All right, I'm looking it up. It's only 1 o'clock. I've been good. I've been talking quickly. San Francisco. Wait, so it was carbon neutral cities. Darn it, I can't remember. Something 40, I'm pretty sure it was. This goal will be achieved by reducing greenhouse gas emissions in Helsinki by 80%. That's pretty much it, but they had a funny word for it. I'm pretty sure they had a word 40 in there, so let me try that. So 2030 is the magical date that they're hitting on. That seems ridiculously soon, but the way things... Oh, C40, so it's carbon... I don't know why they're picking 40. What's up with 40? C40 cities against climate change. I mean, can you really imagine in 7 years that there would be like no... that there would be zero cars with gas in just 7 years on all these large cities? Cities are blah blah. Cities have the potential to achieve 90 to 100% reduction in pollution emissions required by 2030, and to build much of the infrastructure needed to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. So cities have basically pushed out most of the manufacturing, and it's just cars mostly now that are creating the emissions. So it'd be doable, but then who feeds those cities? Where does the food come from? The power that is fed to the cities. It's not going to be as easy to make those carbon neutral. Excuse me. The C40 Group, a network that brings together some of the great metropolises around the world. Metropolises. No, it's not cities now. If you're a C40, you are a metropolis, like on Batman. The Climate Leadership Group, commonly known as the C40. Like, I have never heard of this ever until yesterday, but apparently it's commonly known as the C40. Is made up of a group of cities that have decided to join forces to reduce the amount of emissions. In 2006, the climate leadership had 40 cities. Today, the group is made up of 96 cities. 27 are already aiming to be carbon neutral by 2050. Many of them are already introducing measures to promote sustainable mobility, reduce emissions, blah, blah, blah. Global Green New Deal, reduce emissions from the most polluting sectors such as industry, construction, and waste management. Good food. That's going to happen. Their good food's going to be like soy and algae probably. and that lab-grown meat. You know, I was just learning about that lab-grown meat, and I hadn't really thought of it, but how are they accomplishing lab-grown meat? It kind of sounds cool because you don't have to, like, kill any animals and stuff. But then when I really looked into it, oh, you know, I guess I didn't really expect it to be healthy, but I just didn't really realize what all's involved. So hopefully you guys aren't eating right now, and maybe I'll just say it at the end. But I do, you know, I really do not recommend that anybody eat lab-grown meat. If anybody really doesn't want to hear it, I'll say it now. But like, I'll go ahead and tell you why if nobody puts up a huge complaint. But I'm warning you right now. Could make a dystopian sci-fi novel out of C40. C40, I thought was like an explosive. Isn't C40 an explosive? C40 explosive. I think that's why when I was remembering C40 and my brain's like, no, that's an explosive. You're getting it confused. C4. Okay, C4 is the explosive. That's it. Okay. I was kind of getting it confused. C4. Controlling the masses. I heard that Ohio has advertised the future. Yeah, I believe it was, East Palestine? I thought it was Cleveland that was going to be the 15-minute city, which was like nearby. I have not heard that Palestine was on the Ohio 15-minute city baloney. It was Cleveland. Well, I know Cleveland was doing it. Maybe it isn't the only one. Today is the last day of 2022 in the Hebrew calendar. Okay. Saudi Arabia has planned to build a 15-minute city in a huge cube building. I saw that, and you have the line too. It's really interesting to me because, you know, normally I would say that the way these would normally be done is you would build one and see if you can get people to move in there, and if it worked, then you'd build another one, right? So how do I say this without sounding really obnoxious? But like the rushing forward and just doing it no matter what the heck happens thing seems really crazy. It's just crazy. I mean, like, so you've got this building with, like, I don't know, thousands and thousands of people all squished in there. They've never built a plumbing system like this before. The air conditioning, the venting, somebody makes stinky kimchi next door. Are you mad? This woman's pregnant. She can't stand the smell of kimchi, blah, blah. Are you going to go and punch your neighbor? I mean, like, the way people are now, I just wonder how will that work? You know, would it just become like a hellhole of stink? And are they going to be able to get the smells of all the humans out? Or is there going to be a giant backups in the toilet that's going to flood 10 levels and people run screaming out? You know what I'm saying? It's like these things, it's going to take a while to get the kinks out. And I think it's even going to be worse because humans are kind of sucking more at math and intellectual stuff every year. So unless they've got, I don't think that they have super geniuses over there any more than they do here. We can barely get like a toilet built without a problem, not to mention the line, the cube, and all this other stuff. So I'm just really wondering how this is going to go. I mean, you look at China build all those giant buildings and now they're just like collapsing them again. What is going on? It just, but then again, the timeline is so weird. Maybe it'll work. I don't know. Or is it going to be like, instead of Escape from LA, the movie, it'll be Escape from the Cube. They'll just wall you in, It's like being in a prison. You need a permit to get out. Yeah. Kimchi. Okay, what's kimchi is like it's a fermented cabbage food that is popular. Like China and a lot of Asians eat it. My Vietnamese friends eat it. And it's just, if you don't grow up with it, it's stinky. It's, fermented food. Any fermented food that you didn't grow up with, once you're older and you've already developed your taste, if you smell it, you're going to think it smells like rotten garbage. You know, I mean, like my Chinese friend, she thought that my Parmesan cheese was horribly stinky and foul. And I wasn't a big fan of her kimchi, which is also a fermented food that I did not grow up with. So, yeah, fermented foods. So, yeah, it's just one of the famous stinky foods, especially for Americans, because we encounter it often, but most of us did not grow up with it. So, yeah, anyways, I'm sure that there are fermented foods that are stinky, you know, in every country. We've got our Parmesan. My mom's Filipino husband had this shrimp paste that was fermented, and you know, my mom's told him that he was not allowed to open that in the house. He had to take it outside if he wanted to open it because, you know, the smell. Basically to us, it's rotten shrimp. Yes, the fermented shrimps, yes. Thankfully, it's California, so there's not like 10-foot snowdrifts here in my area near the coast, so you wouldn't die if you had to go outside to open your shrimp paste. Yeah, I know they say that the fermented stuff's good for you. It probably was, but when you yeah, bagong, that was it. That was bagong. I remember now. Yes, bagong. You just have to grow up when it comes to fermented stuff. If you don't grow up with it, you are probably not going to like it. Sauerkraut. Yes, the Germans have theirs. So I grew up with sauerkraut. It is really not my favorite because I don't like sour stuff that much, but I can stomach it. But I grew up with it. I could eat it without hurling, you know, Parmesan I could eat, but all the ones I didn't grow up with, I just can't eat them. It can't be done. I mean, I guess if you paid me money, I might try, but okay, so imagine everybody's got their stinky stuff, you know, I mean, like that stuff, it stinks the whole house. There's gonna be fights, everybody else squished in. I don't know, maybe if people are used to living on top of each other, so they've already worked it out. But then is it going to be like the poor district then? Then no rich people are going to want to be there. And then, you know, I mean, there's just so many issues. Like in America long ago, they said all these poor people don't have housing, so we'll give them housing. So they built the tenements, which is famous low-income housing. They just built a whole bunch of it in one spot, moved everybody in there. It turned into a hellhole because there's always a certain criminal element, and they just sort of took over, and there was just a lot of drugs. And then the worse the environment got, then the kids grew up in this bad environment, so they would become bad, and it just became a hellhole. So that's why I'm just really like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I want to be wrong, but I'm just really not sure how that would work out. And of course, all of the security issues, like you guys said, where they could just lock you down and throw smoke bombs in there and kill you, or who the heck knows what, poison. There's just the control issues are just next level. All right, so C40 City, San Francisco. I didn't even check if San Francisco is going to be a 15-minute city. I think they did say. San Francisco, C40 City, San Francisco, United States Mayor, London Breed, member since 2005. You are on there, San Francisco. LA is on there. I'm not on there. Well, San Diego's not on there, at least not yet. I'm not actually in San Diego either. Global mayors will tackle climate crisis. I know it says this is San Francisco, and then there's like nothing. Back to cities. All right, so basically you're on there. C40 City, San Francisco. There hasn't been, I swear I just heard about this yesterday, and there's not a lot on it, even though supposedly this thing's been around for like 10, 15 years. So I was like, what? Weren't we doing 15-minute cities? Yeah. Maybe I should look at the list of cities, actually. C40.org, back to cities map. So who all is on there? Here we go. So in the United States, we have Phoenix. So Arizona. So it's all big cities. LA and San Francisco. No big surprise there. Some of these surprised me though a little. Austin and Houston. Wouldn't have really thought there'd be a bunch of Texas ones. New Orleans, Chicago, no surprise. Toronto, Boston, Montreal, New York, no surprise. Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Miami, Florida. That is a little interesting too. Europe, Paris, Milan, Oslo, Stockholm, Warsaw. Not really surprised that there's a bunch of Europe ones. I'm not Portland. Oh, there's a shock. Okay. Canada, not surprised. I am a little surprised about some of these South American ones, though. Sao Paulo, Buenos Aires. I mean, do people even know? Like, you're in San Francisco. You didn't even know you're a C4 city, right? So they've all signed you up, but they didn't tell you you got signed up. So, and see, look, it's also creepy because there's all these in China. Is there any Russia? Yeah, see, Warsaw. So what, wait, Warsaw? Yeah, no. There's no Russia ones. Is there Istanbul? Warsaw's not. That's, Poland. So Russia is over here. Typical American. All right, what we don't see is any Russians. Okay, that would kind of surprise me. I don't see anything past Warsaw's in Poland. I don't see anything in Ukraine, and Russia's like, no. So interesting. I'm going to all have to move to Russia. So don't talk too bad about Putin, just in case. Learning my Russian. I look kind of Slavic. Maybe I can get away with it. I'm half Polish, so by blood anyway. I'd have to stop being friendly, though, because Slavs are a little bit more crusty to strangers. Yes, Warsaw. I got it. Oh, wait, that's not right. Typical American. I don't know my geography that well. All right, here we go. So I think there's only two. I have two more. One is a personal Mandela. Basically live in a 15-minute city, just not an artificial one. Well, see, the thing with a 15-minute city is it's not just like if they're telling you that the idea is that you can walk anywhere in 15 minutes and have all you need, like a grocery store and, you know, whatever your basics would be within 15 minutes. There's two issues. One issue is that your normal stuff will be within 15 minutes, but, you know, if you really needed specialty services, like sometimes you'd need like special repair on something, or you can't always find it in 15 minutes because some things are just kind of nichey and there's only gonna be one per city. So what happens if you need to, you know, travel? Okay. But the idea that you could just not have a car is nice overall. Maybe you just rent one or borrow your friend's one if you really had to go far. I have no beefs at all with them making things so you could walk. My issue is what they're really not telling you is that they're also making it so you have to walk. They're blocking it off. They're making it so that you have to get permits to drive past 15 minutes. This is being implemented already in some locations, and the places that are bragging about the 15-minute cities, they already started this before you even heard of the word 15-minute cities. They've already got plans in place. So you're not being told the whole story. You're being told the good part of it. And if it was only the good part, I wouldn't have a beef. The problem is when they're taking away your cars and they're making zones. You have to get a permit to go outside that zone. And then this is like complete lockdown control over humans. And that is, it's complete opposite of freedom. And that's when I have my big beef. They could get a lot of this done by just making it really easy not to have a car. And a lot of people, especially in the city, I think would skip that expense, especially because it's hard to find parking. But no, they're going to force you. They're going to squeeze it out of you. And that's where my beef is. Most of Russia is unlivable, way too cold. I don't know. I mean, like, there's a lot of parts of America that are really, really cold in the winter, too. And I don't think Russia is, like, freezing all year. It's just winter. And then we've got the Mandela. So stuff is changing. You know, even in Antarctica now, there are, like, places without snow. So In Europe, you often don't have a car. Yeah, and they didn't force you to not have a car. It's just that the cities are more walkable. So you kind of have to realize America, a lot of America was built after cars were already a thing. So they didn't have to make them walkable. So Europe, a lot of those areas are so old that it's before cars. They had to be walkable because that's what everybody was doing. Cars came later and they didn't fit in good because you had the narrow lack of good streets and stuff that were for walking. But now they want to get back to walking. It's set up for walking. But America was never set up that way. So that's part of our problem. Every freaking electric thing is now smart and could be connected to your cell phone. Why would you like to talk to my coffee maker? Yeah, especially if you don't trust the government. And it's very interesting because I hear a lot of programmers tell me that they don't trust the programming because they know how much spied upon they are. They know how much, like if you talk about something, then all your devices know, and you get advertisement for that item, and who knows what else is going on. So they don't. The programmers themselves don't like the techie house. They would rather not have everything electronic, and that's something to think about. Those who really know what's going on are not running out and buying these things. But again, a lot of it is just like tech for tech's sake. I really don't need my refrigerator to tell me what's in my refrigerator. So saw no poster flyer saying that this was a public park and we need permission from Parks Department if you're a private business using park for your business. Yeah, there's been parks that have been banning like single adults. Like if you don't have a kid with you, you can't go in. I'm like, well, don't we all pay for the parks? What if some little old lady wants to use the park? Well, maybe allow that. Well, what if I want to use the park and I'm not that old? I'm only a little bit old. But they're like, if you don't have a kid, you can't use the park, And like some 18-year-old was going to the park to do homework. They're like, you can't hang out here. It's just getting ridiculous. It just, and it was daytime. I mean, if you're worried about the bad element, then close the parks at dark. But that wasn't it either. No teaching tennis at their tennis parks or soccer teams. Here it's already pretty bad. This is California. So if you're doing a business, you can teach here. But if you want, they're not that bad. They still let you use it for business. But if you want a dedicated course, like if you want to camp out on that court like every day at Tuesday at 2 p.m. till 5 p.m. or something, then you have to actually pay to reserve the course. I guess that makes sense though, but you could still. So yeah, I don't know. They don't want you to have any way to make money. I'm just turning more libertarian. I used to be somewhat left leaning, but now I'm like, just leave me the hell alone. Maybe that's just what happens when you get old. Sacramento. Sacramento. All I have to say is Sacramento, California, and I don't need to say anything else. The one thing I will say about Sacramento, though, is it has some really beautiful old-style architecture, old buildings. The Capitol building, whatever you called that building, that's a museum, is really pretty. They had a lot of neat buildings in Sacramento. I won't say too much more about Sacramento. Probably weather's okay. There's another nice thing to say. And you're in there. So see, there's one good thing. Okay. So, this is one more thing that I always learn. What creates the tides? Okay, what creates the tides? Now, it hasn't totally changed, but what creates the tides? Do you remember what they said creates the tides? Grew up in downtown Sacto. Is that what you call it? It sounds less bad and kind of worse in some ways, but around here they call Escondido Esco, so not really surprised, but just tour the state capitol. It is. I haven't ever actually been there, but I've seen images, photos of it. It does look really awesome. I realize they're trying so hard to get people out of Cali with fire, rain, or taxes and idiotic rules. I don't know. So Cali was growing like 10% a year up until the pandemic, and it dropped like 0.5%. So a lot of people left, but really not as many as you think, because it stopped growing. It's still a big change. I mean, growing 10% a year to growing none, but at least that's the official word on it. So I know a lot of people who left, but I'm thinking there must still be a fair number who came in, so that it's not like minus 10% or anything. I grew up in an old Victorian. It was so neat. I could walk everywhere, but this was way back. Now it's sad down there. Yeah, you must have. I mean, how is it? Is it like all homeless and crazy scary like San Francisco? That's one thing I've been hearing a lot of San Francisco's is just the nervous factor is ratcheting up because just the violence and stuff. Tons of apartments around, but it's always dark in most of them, and it's weird, strange, empty. Truman Show. Interesting. Okay. I'm waiting until I'm old enough to trip people with my cane. Come on, that's not cool. You just shake your cane at them, and no tripping. You got to keep control of yourself now. Okay, so I remember, not exactly the shock, but I just remembered the moon being in charge of the tides. And this subject has come up a lot, though, because I think it was Mandela Effect covered this way back, and he's like, wait, the tides aren't when the tides are supposed to be. So it used to be, okay, the moon's up, full moon, that's like high tide, and then when the moon was like opposite, that was low. When it was like 90-degree angle, it was low tide, because the tides would bulge out with the moon. So if the moon's here, the tides would bulge out, and as the moon moved, the tides would move. And then Mandela Effect is like, wait a minute, the full moon is here, but we're not at high tide. And I was looking it up, and I was trying to figure out what's going on with the tides. And they're like, well, it's kind of complicated. And there's factors about when the water sloshes against itself, so that it may not exactly be like when you think it is. And it's a little bit hard to predict. And then we would have the high tides that weren't as high because the moon was like, I was having trouble figuring it out, and there was nothing on it. But now the news story, find this, not that the moon has nothing to do with it, it still does. So they're now saying the sun creates like half the tide. So the moon, it has half the power of the moon. I don't remember the sun having any power. Last time I checked, there was nothing about the sun. But this would definitely complicate it and explain a few things, except for this explanation just wasn't there. And this just popped up on Reddit out of the blue. High tides and low tides are caused by the moon. Well, that was the whole story. Now they're going yamming on about that. The story we all know. But then, so here's the image, right? But then that really wouldn't be an accurate story at all if the sun creates, so say there's say there's a power of 1 that the moon creates on the tides, then the sun would have a power of like half. So that would be like a third of the tides maybe, or something, or to 50%, depending on how you did your math, would be the sun. So if the sun's over here and the moon's over here, then that would really change things, and it would make the tides really strange. So we always were shown this. We were never shown the sun in the image, but if the sun has that much effect, it should have always been part of the story. The cycle of 2 high tides and 2 low tides occurs on most days on most of the coastlines. All right. One thing to note, however, is this is just an explanation of the tidal force, not the actual tides. In real life, the Earth isn't a global ocean covering an even layer of water. There are continents that gets in the way. The continents prevent the water from perfectly following the moon's pull. That's why in some places the difference between high and low tide isn't very big. In other places, the difference is drastic. That explains the first high tide of each day, but about the second one, and they're going to say it's the opposite. Where's the part where the sun is? I'm still trying to get there. Find. So I really think this sun thing must be pretty noon. The sun causes tides just like the moon does, although they are somewhat smaller when the Earth, moon, and sun line up, which happens at times of full moon or new moon. The lunar and solar tides reinforce each other. This is interesting too, because it kind of fits with how the orbits changed on the moon. So that is the new explanation then. Okay. When lunar and solar tides act against each other, the result is usually small tides called neap tides. Never heard of that. There is a new moon or full moon every 2 weeks, so that's how often we see large spring tides. Does that even make sense? It happens every 2 weeks and they're spring tides. Okay. Every 2 weeks happens all year, not just in the spring. Why would they be called spring tides? Oh, okay. Spring. Okay. So when they say spring tides, they don't mean happening in the spring anymore. They mean it springs out. Springs tide. Okay. Terminology. All right. Wind and weather patterns affect the water level. Okay, that was part of it before, was wind and weather. Offshore winds can move water from coastlines, exaggerating low tides, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so the sun is like half the story now, or a third of the story, or however you want to talk about it. And since it just showed up for me really fairly recently, it hasn't been that long ago that I discovered this. I don't know how much more of a story it's going to become. I used to wonder that, actually. I'm like, well, the sun is so large and it like grabs the Earth so much and holds it, locked in our orbit, but yet it doesn't affect the tides. But that never was a thing. And I'm like, well, it's so far away. But my brain was a little like, yeah. But now it does. Now it does affect the. So the sun is doing like half at the tide. Different planets in their gravitational pull are supposed to cause some earthquakes. Wait. Well, Space River News. Are you that Space River News that's always on that actual channel? There's that dude with the nice voice that does Space River News. Is that you? That has a gajillion followers? But yes, I know that there's different storylines now than there once was. And I don't know, is that actually official canon narrative that the planets and stuff affect that? Because it seems like there's a lot of independent researchers that are saying that. It makes logical sense. No, you're not Space River News. Okay. I never heard that guy talk about Mandelas or anything like that. So I was like, wait a minute. That guy doesn't do Mandelas. 500 followers. Okay. Yeah, there's this guy, and he does earthquakes and stuff. Yeah. King tide. Yeah, isn't that one I heard lately? King tide. There's a whole bunch of new stuff with the tides. So, now there's like 16 species of fish that are ultra black skin. So they're saying that there's more, but it's hard to find in the deep. So what, we're getting black stuff now. Ultra black fish and ice and all. I still just can't get that. Like, they're saying that the pure ice is black. That is just not right. It shouldn't be just clear. Isn't that what pure ice does? I mean, when I get really pure ice out of my freezer, it is not black. I've never, no matter how much pure ice they try to create, they have never succeeded in making black pure ice. So how is it that Antarctica could do it? I always thought, did Romans know it was the end of their empire? Now I can see it repeating. It's fascinating and scary. It is. So, but then with the Mandela, though, we may have, I can see now that there's forks options. So I do think that America is going to change its place in the world. But it may be that there's two forks here, the fork of destruction and the fork of renewal. And I do think that the old has to crash in order for the new to rebuild, probably. And we can hope that it's going to be a somewhat controlled crash and that we can all scramble to new positions safely before the rebuild. I do wonder if we're going to have a lot more regional variation, so you can just kind of pick where you want to go and stuff. Some may say the sun has a second sun that's black. Interesting. So what is a black sun? It would be like a black hole, or what would even that be? It's kind of hard to process, because if it doesn't emit light or anything, then no heat, no radiation, no nothing, then I think that is like a black hole. Yeah, I know. If you made black ice, can you imagine you were trying to make ice and it was black? Oh, it's too pure. Throw that crap out. So I don't know if I mentioned last week, I think I said the river has a different crossing down at the bottom of my property. And I was bopping around back there today, or a couple days ago even, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but there's a whole bunch of palm trees down there I just saw. And that's also kind of flipping me out, because I think I said this last week. I'm not sure. But I don't like palm trees on the property because they're Mexican fan palms, and first of all, they're invasive. Now I do worry about that less now because I've given up on all that environmental stuff. But the second issue is when fires come through, they're really flammable, and then the pieces fly. And so I've been trying to, if I see what happens is the birds poop out the seeds and you get this baby fan palm, and you got to whack it down. The minute you see it, you got to cut it down, because once they get big, they're real hard to remove. So just keep an eye out. You see one of those things, get it down. And so, a few years ago, there was like 2 little ones, and we chopped them down, and they're a big hassle because the frond, it's hard to cut them. They're so oily, they catch the chainsaw on fire. It's hard to dispose of the fronds because the garbage companies don't like them. So we got them down, right? So, okay, one of them was like 6 foot tall already. We got it down. I'm like, yes. I keep my eye open for them. There's none in there. I go down there a couple of days ago around the corner, and it's not like I never go around the corner, but I don't go down there all the time. It's like a block and a half, and it's kind of a busy road. And I go down there, and there's like 25 palm trees. Fan palms. They're all fan palms. And they're along this new river thing. Like, the river is wider. It's got a new path. I guess it runs more or something. And it makes sense that now there's a million fan palms. Some of them are like, they're above the power lines. They're like 20, 25 feet tall. So I guess I lost. The fan palms win. I'm not going to try to take down all those things. But I totally lost the fan palm war, is all I have to say. They're going, I'm not going to try to get rid of them. They're all in the mud. They're all like right next to the power lines. Don't worry, the fires that happen in California won't bother to burn palm trees or green plastic garbage cans, but make everything else turn to white ashes. I know, Shari, I know there was weird stuff about the fires up in Paradise, a location that I don't remember existing particularly, up in the northern end of California, which to me is a big fat Mandela anyway. But we have had fires here, and this has been some time since we had the firestorms, pre-Mandela awareness. And I didn't see anything weird about the fires we had back then. I mean, they burnt down houses. I saw the houses burnt down. They didn't get many cars because people got in their cars and drove them away. But there wasn't any obviously mysterious stuff. But that was back in the day when everything didn't have a conspiracy theory associated with it. So I'm not sold on it can't happen here. But again, I give up now. They won. You cut down every palm tree and then you go over there and suddenly there's 25 of the damn things. It's like, no. But palm trees. So fan palms are not the beautifulest of palm trees. And they're like weeds around here. And you have to trim those things because those branches die and they cling on there. And it just becomes a bearded fire trap. And it's very expensive to pay someone to get those fronds off because they have to have climbing equipment or a crane or a lift boom thing. And sometimes there's giant beehive nests up in there. There's millions of rats that live in there. All kinds of hornets can live in there. And then again, the garbage companies do not like those fronds. Those fronds are so destructive and difficult to break down that they don't like to take them. So you have a million fronds. You got to pay a fortune. It's just, palm trees are for rich people, okay? Because you got to trim them every year. You got to climb way. No, I don't want them. But, well, they're there now. And they're not trimmed, of course. So they're giant Roman candles waiting for a spark is what they are. Your niece learned about snow thunder. Yeah. What do we have? I think we have snow lightning and snow everything now. Thunder snow, yeah. When did thunder snow show up? That was what, like 4 years ago or something? I think that's when we first heard of it. So some of the other palm trees will drop their fronds naturally, so you don't have to keep trimming them. I like those better. But then you have a problem that anytime there's a high wind, like those fronds are pretty heavy. I mean, they could be like 10 feet, 8 foot long, and they can break windows. They fall in the road. They can jam. They can cause traffic injuries, crashes, and stuff. So if you're going to have those, they need to be out where they're not going to drop fronds on people. And then you still have to dispose of the fronds. So they're a little bit of work, but at least they self-drop. It's not as bad. But those are not the really hardy palms. It's the Mexican fan palms that are super hardy, self-seeding, grows like weeds, doesn't need supplemental water. Those are the ones that almost always are the weed monsters of the universe. All these other ones, date palms, blah, blah, blah. You got to plant those. You choose them. They're slower growing. They're more manageable. I still find ice fog creepy. Yeah, ice fog. I don't think I even know what that is, frankly. I don't think I've heard of that before. The Paradise disaster was heartbreaking. Just met someone from the town council. Rebuilding. Doing it right won't happen again. Well, hopefully not. Oh, okay. You made it up. Okay. You mean the ice fog? Okay. Wait, no. General sorrow. Nano snow. Oh, you made nano snow up. Okay. Yeah, I've not heard of nano snow either. Okay, well, I'm pretty much done, and I think you guys are done. I did a little hunting for Mandelas, but I didn't really find a ton of them today, so I would call it a little on the slow side. 4 out of 10 for global Mandelas. I didn't really see any local Mandelas except for those palm trees. There's that river down there. Everything associated with that river is really shifty right now. So the river... I talked about that drainage thing under the road, and I went down there and I looked at it again today. I swear it's a little, I don't know if I'm going crazy. I'm imagining it. I swear that it is a little bigger. Like it looks like it's really shifty. It looks like it's actually gotten another foot on the side, the cement that goes across. It's a little bit hard to scramble down there, but I think in a week I'll scramble down there and see if the height is the same. So it goes in on one side of the road and then out onto my property on the other side of the road. And it also looked like the guys over there, it was much higher than when I saw it like last week today. So I'm like wondering if it's kind of creepy, but as we get more water, the water infrastructure is expanding. I don't know. It's like, it's like sometimes I'm looking at these, am I just totally imagining this? So since I love like sneaking around in old abandoned places and stuff, a lot of times when I see these things, I go, well, how much work would it be to crawl through this? How much bending over would it, if I can just bend at the waist, it's way more comfortable than having to crouch. So I kind of like sussed out that tube according to that. So if it gets significantly higher and then it would become significantly easier to traverse, I will notice that. So that's why I want to clamber down there once it stops raining again and it's not super slippery. Deadfall needs to be burned, blah blah. All the power lines underground. Okay. Redesign roads and access grids. Yeah. The thing is, if you just cut down all the trees, it's a lot safer, but then you won't like it up there. So, some people in some of the areas here in the mountains are having the reverse issue. 10 feet of snow. They couldn't get out. Some people froze to death. I mean, not a lot, but I think like 10 people died. Older people... no way to get out with 10 foot of snow. We're not used to 10 foot of snow here. I mean, nobody's ever seen more than 2-3 feet of snow. So, none of the setups are right. You don't have the lines aren't buried deep enough to not freeze, and there's not enough snow plows, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I guess we're all going to have to be more flexible. If we have portable power, if we improve all these things with these hydrogen enzymes and stuff, we could each be a lot stronger living off the grid because we could have our own grid. So that would be nice. Paradise could have its own little grid, Each house could have its own little grid. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming. Very much appreciate it. Happy Mandelas, everybody. Think good thoughts. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.